program. I'm Lee Sales. Since it first started in 2004, Facebook has grown at an absolutely staggering rate. It now has about 750 million users worldwide. In Australia, about half of us have Facebook accounts. The Wall Street Journal recently speculated that if the social network goes public next year, it could trade at a $100 billion valuation. The question now is whether anything can derail the Facebook juggernaut. Periodically, the company's faced user revolts over privacy issues, and other corporations are now ramping up competition, most notably Google, with the launch of its own social network, Google+, a few weeks ago. Earlier, I spoke to David Kirkpatrick, the author of The Facebook Effect. Mr. Kirkpatrick, many of my viewers will have seen the film The Social Network and formed their impression of Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg from that. But what's the real Mark Zuckerberg like?
Well, he's not very much like the character in the movie, who was an insecure, angry, woman-hating guy who really created Facebook in order to impress, a failed relationship girl. He's actually the most confident person I've ever met. He's generally quite funny. He's extremely calm and unbelievably forward-looking. And, the movie also left out the whole motivation for starting Facebook, which was really this idea that communication could be more efficient between friends. And, he really did have a big picture vision from the beginning, and he's still trying to build on it.
One of the areas that's been most controversial for Facebook has been the area of privacy and some of the changes Facebook's made or attempted to make to the website's privacy settings. Tell us about Mark Zuckerberg's philosophy on privacy.
Well, I think his philosophy on privacy really has been evolving. And in the book, I talk about how he has this idea that you have one identity. And that whereas in the past we might have, presented one face to our friends at work and to our boss and another face to our family and friends, at home or, in an extreme example, in the sex club, whatever, we have had different identities that we have tried to keep separate. Zuckerberg historically has really believed that that's impossible. And for the most part, Facebook's members have followed him on that path, and the controversies that have arisen around privacy have generally not really been a concern of very many members. However, they've been a big concern of people like you and me in the press and privacy experts and government officials. So they've had to respond. But now what's happening is, as Facebook is penetrating literally every kind of person in literally every country on the planet. Their second largest country is Indonesia, not too far from you all down there. And, they have to basically build a system that works for everybody. And there are a lot of us, particularly older ones, who really do want more control over who sees what. And if you look at what's happening with Google+, which is this new service that's just launched in the last couple of weeks and is getting a lot of excitement among the digerati, the fundamental difference between the two services is that Google+ gives you more concrete privacy controls to guarantee that certain people see certain things and other people don't see it. Makes it easier to control that. So I think Facebook will be forced by the marketplace to continue to improve its privacy settings and make it easier to let your friends see one thing, your family see another thing, your work colleagues see another thing. And no matter what Zuckerberg believes, and I think in his heart he still does believe really everyone should effectively disclose everything, and that's the only way to be an honest person. I think in reality, the market will effectively force Facebook to accommodate a different set of realities.
So you don't think that his views about openness and transparency are going to mean that Facebook keeps periodically trying to reduce privacy for its users?
Well, I think it is. I think Facebook has tremendously pushed its users in the direction of transparency and openness. And that is a very firmly held belief that he has, that openness and transparency is the way of the future and, as I said before, is the way that a truly honest person will behave. There is really a moral element to Zuckerberg's thinking about Facebook, interestingly. I think the world is changing. We are losing our privacy. There are cameras on every corner. Companies of all sorts, credit card companies, banks, credit rating agencies, security companies have more information about us than we really would like to think about. Facebook is just one of many in that regard. So the reality is we are losing our privacy. But, I think Facebook will still try to give us some degree of control.
There have recently been reports of Facebook's intention to spread into China. How important is that for the company's growth strategy?
Well, if you think about, as I said before, Zuckerberg's goal being to get everyone on the planet using Facebook, which, of course will never happen, but that is his ultimate aim. That's where he tries to take the company. He cannot overlook the largest country in the world, which is also where the largest single number of internet users live, in China. And China's internet is a very, very robust and healthy business environment right now, and there's a lot of social networking going on there. It's just Facebook is not legally allowed in China at the moment, and I think Zuckerberg is extremely committed to solving that problem and figuring out a way to get Facebook in China so that he can bring those people onto his network. And he did something extraordinary in trying to move in that direction, something that I've never really heard of another CEO doing. Confronted with this challenge to succeed in China, he went out and learned Mandarin. And he now is becoming fluent. He's quite fluent already in Mandarin after studying it for the last year and a half every single day. And he's been to China recently. He's going to go to China again. And when he does, he meets with government leaders, he meets with the heads of the internet companies over there, and increasingly he's talking to them in Chinese. That's the seriousness with which he takes this challenge.
Does Mark Zuckerberg himself have any sort of Achilles heel that could bring the company undone?
I'm very impressed with him personally, but I'll tell you, the Achilles heel is not so much with Zuckerberg himself per se, so much as with the fact that he is the only person who really matters and makes any decisions there. Facebook is an odd company in that Zuckerberg has absolute and total control. So you basically have what we call a single point of failure. And if Zuckerberg were to make a really dumb decision, which all of us do on some occasions, and if he refused to listen to his board members and his colleagues, which might not happen, but it could conceivably happen, he could take the company down a rat hole and basically, possibly destroy its credibility or really, really injure it. I don't think it's fundamentally healthy for a company in general to have one person deciding absolutely everything, which effectively in the end is what happens at Facebook. They have a board, but he controls the majority of the board seats. So, I've been impressed with him. I continue to be impressed with him. I think he's an extraordinary young leader. But I think it's going to be interesting as Facebook continues to grow, what it means to have one person having to sign off on everything. And that's a kind of precarious reality.
David Kirkpatrick, thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
Thank you, Lee. It's been great talking to you. Appreciate you having me on.